Tomorrow we're leaving. Your beach house is gone, sold, my daughter spits, her words slicing through me. The deed is signed in secret. The lock's already changed and my useless keys dig into my palm. I steady my breath and vow, this isn't over. I never expected betrayal to arrive by phone in the middle of a quiet South Carolina afternoon. Salt hung in the air like something you could fold into your pocket. I brushed grit off the rail, then ran my thumb along the carved initials on the dock. Mine and Margaret's, 2 letters pressed into wood that outlived the both of us as a couple. The planks answered with a hollow tick. That sound still calmed me better than any pill. I checked the pilings for worm bite, tightened a loose cleat, and pocketed the dock key. It rode the seam of my jeans the way old habits do, annoying until you need them. From here you could hear the river throat the marsh and see gulls slope toward folly, all of it the wide breath that had carried our kids' summers. The screen door slapped behind me. Still holding that old place together, Mr. Miller? Ben from 2 houses over leaned on my fence like it owed him conversation. It holds me more than I hold it, I said. Will outlast us all. Unkind prediction, I told him, letting a smile cut the edge. His eyes flicked toward the kitchen window where my phone sat on the counter. It had pulsed once, just a faint light. He didn't mention it. People around here are polite right up to the rumor line. Cicadas are loud this year, he added, as if noise could be blamed for anything that carried. They only sing when it's hot, I said. Honest creatures. He waved and wandered down the sidewalk, the cicadas sawing him out of view. I stayed on the porch step and looked at the siding where the paint needed freshening. Work like that makes a man feel present. You can see the stroke on the wall and know the day wasn't wasted. Inside, the house ran on small systems I trusted. A calendar thumbtacked to cork, labels on pantry jars, Margaret's recipe cards in a plastic box that still smelled like nutmeg. My knees did their quiet complaint as I set the dock key on its hook by the door. I always hear the clink. The house always answers. The kettle murmured. I measured coffee, rinsed the mug, and let the hot water bloom the grounds. No great secret to good coffee. Time is the whole trick, and most folks rush it. I stood there until the scent hit the sweet spot, bitter, then round. I thought about calling Sophia just to tell her the tide chart for the weekend, as if that ever interested her. For her name and drifted away. We'd been talking less. Our conversations had become lists, hers of fixes I should make, mine of things she'd said she'd take care of and hadn't. We were both guilty of speaking like managers of the other's time. In the hallway, the air was cooler. The picture frames were straight because I straightened them. In the spare room, the bed was made for whenever she visited, which lately meant never, and somehow I kept washing those sheets anyway. My late wife would have scolded me for using too much detergent, then hugged me for trying. Back in the kitchen, the phone rested face down, a polite rectangle pretending not to know more than it showed. I dried my hands, then turned it over to check the time. Early afternoon, the kind of hour that goes missing if you don't give it a job. I opened the back door to let the river air pull through. If I were kinder to myself, I'd say I'd been rehearsing a conversation with Sophia. Not an argument, just the old parental check-in about money, plans, and whether she'd finally get that kitchen leak fixed. In my head, it began easy. Then is the week. We're sorting a few things. Sorting means deciding or hiding. Don't start. I stopped the practice before it turned into a fight with no opponent. Talking to a room teaches you where you're a bully and where you're a coward. I try to be neither. COVID kettle and temperatures needs. I can step that on the counter water like a man between appointments. Outside, a gull barked. A boat engine coughed twice and decided to live. I thought of my classroom, the chalk that dried my fingers white, the names I wrote on the board for years, kids who now carried their own houses and their own keys. I wondered what they were teaching their own. A breeze snuck in through the screen and tugged at a sticky note on the corkboard. I pressed it flat with a thumb. Replace porch light, it said in my blocky hand. I like lists because they don't argue. You either cross them off or you don't. Fiberglass, I rinsed the mug and set it to dry. The phone hummed once, an insect of sound against the wood, I didn't pick it up. The house sounded normal. The dock key glinted where I'd hung it, a small brass promise that things hold if you hold them. Heart pulse. I put my hand on the counter and let the cool laminate steady me. Steady as a habit. I was trying to keep it. I wiped the sink and glanced at the door as if Margaret might walk in with sand on her ankles, telling me I'd overbrewed the coffee again. Grief is more like tide than storm. It returns, reshapes the shore, and leaves you with shells that cut and shine at once. Balloons hummed again and then went still. I left it there. Some afternoons deserve to end as quietly as they began. The phone lit the counter like a stage light. Or flying to Europe. Your beach house has already been sold. Bye. Blasnosois had the tone people use when canceling a lawn service. I didn't touch the phone yet. I let the words sit, heavy as wet rope. Then I slid my thumb to accept and brought it to my ear. Sophia, I said, what sale are you talking about? It's done, she said. Don't worry, we set aside your share. It'll keep you afloat for a while. In the window glass, I could see myself, an old man holding a rectangle that thought it knew me. Outside, the marsh bent and gleamed like it didn't believe in problems. Afloat, I said. How generous of you to toss me a ring after you pushed me off the dock. She exhaled impatience. Dad, please, we've talked about liquidity. Houses are anchors. Ryan and I, this is a new chapter. The church bell 2 streets over struck the hour, a clear metal count that made the window shiver. I let it finish. Some sounds deserve space. What you call a new chapter, I said, you begin by ripping out my pages. Don't be dramatic. Who signed the transfer? Bright tone. Dad, you always get hung up on paperwork. We handled it. You'll be comfortable. Because I taught civics for 30 years, I said. Paperwork is where the truth sits down. She laughed, a short, brittle glass clink. You're confusing yourself again. We're taking a flight out of Atlanta at 9:14 tomorrow morning. Ryan has the confirmations. I'll send you some money once we're settled. The phone vibrated in my hand as an alert slid across the screen. Calendar. Flight 9:14 a.m. The digits were tidy as a threat. You put that in my calendar? I asked. You always forget times. I remember what matters. Dad, her voice softened to the tone people use to train dogs. It's just a house. You maintained it, that's all. We need the capital more than you need nostalgia. My wife and I raised children in that nostalgia, she said, and now I'm raising us. I let the kettle stay quiet on the stove. I hadn't turned it on today. The choice pleased me. I want to see the documents, I said. Everyone. We already dealt with it, she said, and the smile in her words was the kind you use on clerks. Your share will be wired. It's better if you don't stress about the details. Stress comes from lies that get exercise, I said. Send the papers. Prestige. You don't need them. That's the difference between us, I said, voice even. I don't need them to be right. I need them to be clear. Shuffled switch tactics. Dad, don't start calling people. Don't embarrass yourself at church. Please, we're finally free to live. You'll be fine. There it was, the little knife dressed as care. You're free to live, I said, but not free to use my name as a ticket. Dad, she said, snapping the word, we set aside your share. Then you won't mind me seeing how you set it aside. The bell's last echo died down the block. My reflection steadied. Look, she said, we're heading to the airport now. I can't get into another debate about your attachment to wood and memories. Wood and memories hold in storms, I said. People do too, when they choose to. She sighed. Bye, Dad. Before you hang up, I said, say it plainly so I can hear it without the pretty words. Confronted. What? What exactly did you do? Tomorrow we're flying to Europe. Your beach house has already been sold. She paused. Bye. My thumb hovered over the red button. I didn't give her the satisfaction of being the one to end it. I waited until the line went dead on its own, her way. I set the phone down. The kitchen felt 2 degrees colder. Through the glass, I watched the dock, steady as if it weren't just downgraded to scenery in my daughter's life. I opened the recent calls screen and tapped the little gray circle to save. Her words folded into a file with a time under it. I played the first second back just enough to hear her voice say tomorrow, and then I stopped. No need to feed myself the whole thing yet. Reached for the hook by the door and found the dock key with my fingertips. It was warm from the afternoon. I didn't take it down. I just touched it to remind myself that metal remembers the shape of its lock. Dad, you're confusing yourself again. Facts don't wrinkle with age. You're being stubborn. I'm being specific. Don't call anyone. I'll call the truth. I turned the phone face up and looked at the screen again. Flight 9:14 a.m. Tidy digits, tidy nerve. Heart pulse. Shock hardened into a clean line inside my chest. I could stand on that line. I pressed my thumb on the save icon one more time to be sure. The house exhaled. The phone hummed once and went still. This will keep, I said. Coffee hour is where kindness and curiosity mix like cream and settle in clumps. The fellowship hall smelled like percolator roast and lemon cleaner, and the tables wore paper claws someone ironed with their palms. And I kept my head down, lifted a styrofoam cup, and let the lids squeak the way those lids do when you don't want them to. Poor Thomas, someone said near the pastry table, under breath and over loud. I pretended to study the bulletin board, potluck sign-ups, choir rehearsal, a flyer about a roof fund. The phone vibrated once in my jacket. I took it out as if checking a weather app and opened Sophia's page. There she was, on a jetway. Champagne flute, Ryan's sunglasses mirrored in the curve. Caption, "Freedom at last, new life, new start." A string of fireworks emojis marched like ants. A laugh caught in my throat wrong. I saved the screen without letting my face change. "Mr. Miller!" The deacon at the mic tapped it twice and smiled toward the crowd. "Let's spare a prayer for travelers this week." A few faces swung toward me like sunflowers trying to find the sun. Cups clicked on tabletops. Someone added, "Paris!" and a little, "ooh," passed over the room. The piano at the far end, waiting for the next service, stroked a warm-up chord as if the hall needed accompaniment. "Travel mercies," the deacon went on, "and peace for those at home." That last bit floated in my direction. I sipped coffee that had been on the burner too long. The bitterness helped. A couple from 3 pews back drifted past. The wife whispered, "She left him the house." And the husband said, "Or maybe he gave it. You know how men can be sentimental." I slid the phone in to stay there, wrapped around the dock key. Brass is honest. It warmed to my palm like it remembered who kept it. Claire Ives arrived at my elbow without announcement, the way people who actually know you do. She leaned as if reading the bake sale prices. "Thomas," she said softly, "you don't have to stand under this light if you don't want to." "Fine," I said. "Lights show what's already there." She nodded at my pocket. "You heard?" I read, "Ryan's been signing things he shouldn't," she murmured, eyes still on the cupcakes, "in her name, and maybe yours." The deacon's prayer wound down. "Amen," the room agreed on cue, heads lifted like flowers again. "I'll need paper," I said. "You'll find it," Claire said, "and I'll stand where you need me." 2 ladies with matching brooches parked themselves in front of us, the way birds claim a wire. "Thomas," one said, her sympathy polished, "big changes, I hear. The children have their lives." "They do," I said evenly, "and they're responsible for them." She pursed her mouth. "We saw Sophia's post. Such confidence. Europe. So brave." "Blind people don't need to narrate it," I said. "They're busy doing it." The second one chuckled like a wind chime hitting a nail. "You must be so proud." "It's better when it's mutual." They drifted off, already writing me into a story where I never learned my lines. I scrolled again, making sure the photo saved. A comment under the post read, "Cut ties, queen. Start fresh." Another, "Sell the dead weight." I breathed through my nose and counted the inhale. I've taught children to do that when a classmate calls them a name. Adults need the same drills, just quieter. The piano tested another chord. The deacon shuffled papers. Claire moved us a half step toward the doorway, into a breeze that smelled faintly of wet coats. "She'll say you're confused," Claire said. She already did. "She'll say the sale was needed, underestimated." She said that too. She'll say she saved you trouble, Claire finished. She likes finishing my sentences, I said. I'm going to start finishing my own. Lee stood like that a moment, two people pretending to admire the bake sale while watching a small social storm pass over and rain elsewhere. The fellowship hall does that. It gathers weather and lets it dissipate responsibly. Talk, a man from the finance committee said as he brushed by. If you need help with arrangements. Arrangements, I repeated, letting the words sit on my tongue like a chipped seed. Thank you, I'm making them. He left, relieved to have offered the shape of help without the substance. Family tension exchange, quoted and answered. Freedom at last. New life, new start, I said to Claire, quoting the caption. Claire's eyebrow rose. Freedom is easy when someone else pays the exit fee, I added. She didn't scold me for the edge. She looked at me the way an old friend looks at the edge and sees a grip instead of a blade. A child tore past with a cookie, then turned back to whisper to his mother while pointing. Children always spot the person the room is talking about, even if they don't know why. I nodded to him. He grinned with chocolate teeth. At least one witness in this room had no malice to give. The deacon finished collecting the cups. The piano lid closed with a soft thump. People began to drift toward the parking lot, their voices switching keys to weather and football and whether the roof fund thermometer would hit red by Thanksgiving. Claire touched my sleeve. There'll be a paper trail, she said. Ryan's a man who leaves smudges. He's a man who thinks smudges evaporate, I said. They don't. Hold on to that voicemail, she said. It's cleaner than anything they'll bring. Heart pulse. Shame cooled into a steadier metal inside me. Purpose, plain as brass. I nodded, pocket heavy with a key and a file I hadn't opened yet, and walked toward the door. King Street smelled like rain and copier warm-up. The law office door gave a polite bell ding when I pushed it. Framed diplomas lined the hallway like certificates of permission. I wiped my shoes on the mat and told the receptionist my name. She smiled the way professionals do, every syllable carefully ironed. Totter came out with his sleeves rolled once and a pen clipped to the center of his tie like a tiny sword. Mr. Miller Thomas, come on back. His office was smaller than I expected and more honest for it. A legal pad, 2 pens, a plant trying hard. I sat. The chair made a small sound that felt like agreement. I'll start with what I know, I said, and put my phone face down as if it might try to speak for me. My daughter called yesterday, said the beach house was already sold. Flight 914 this morning. I saved the call. Good, Carter said. Don't forward it to anyone. Don't clip it. The original file is gold. We'll work off carrier metadata and a transcript we generate ourselves. Screenshots from Facebook, I added. Boarding photo. Caption said, Freedom at last. New life. New start. Also good. Save the public URL where it lives. No commentary. No emoji replies. He looked over his glasses. No posts from you. Silence is sometimes the only way to sound credible. I've taught in public schools. He smiled. Then you're overqualified. I took the dock key from the corner of his desk. It made a click the room respected. What we're going to do, he said, tapping his legal pad, is build a paper ladder you can climb in front of other people. 2 rails, title chain and identity use. Rungs, clerk stamp copies, notary journal entries, bank device logs. At the top, a room full of witnesses. No shouting. I don't shout, I said, I read. This is what he wasn't need. He leaned back. First task, establish the chain of custody for what you already have. I'll email you a simple intake where you drop the raw files. Keep the originals on your device. We'll make 2 identical copies and checksum them. You don't have to know the math, only that we can prove nothing was altered. I know enough math to respect proof, I said. Second, he went on, we prepare a freeze in case somebody tries to run a forged transfer through the clerk's office. That requires 1 clean predicate, evidence that something's off in the deed chain or signature. Something is off, I said. My daughter says I won't need the details. That usually means she made them decorative. He nodded. Tomorrow or the next day, we go to the recorder and pull the full deed chain. If there's a gap, we memorialize it. After that, we look at the notary journal. If your name shows on a day you were somewhere else, we have leverage. He met my eyes. Were you somewhere else on any recent weekday? Anywhere that logs you? Clinic on the 1st for a blood test, I said. They timestamp everything. They're proud of it. Beautiful, he scribbled. We'll line that up next to any signature date and let the clock do the arguing. Outer office started and stopped like someone playing a scale wrong. The door cracked open. A paralegal stuck her head in. Phones are ringing off the hook from the clerk's office today, she said. They're backed up, but still timestamping. She glanced at me. We'll keep lines open for you. Thanks, Maya, Carter said. The door clicked shut. Backed up means sloppier eyes, Carter said. Also means more entries, that's fine. We don't need their attention yet, we need their clocks. I folded my hands, then unfolded them. You should know there will be talk. At church, in the neighborhood. Let them talk, he said. Public perception is a venue, we'll use it later. For now, you do 3 things. He ticked them off. 1. Don't argue on the internet. 2. Don't show documents to anyone who isn't me or a clerk. 3. Keep breathing at an even rate when someone says something foolish. I can manage the breathing, I said. Foolishness takes longer. Regarding your daughter, he paused, measuring the word. Keep communications polite and brief. If she orders you not to make calls, ignore the order. Do not, however, call and threaten. We're building a record, not a scene. As if she'd heard him, my phone thumped, a new text from Sophia. Please don't make a mess of this. We're already gone. A second later, I'll send money when we're settled. I set the phone down as if it were warm. She thinks money is anesthesia, I said. She thinks money is permission, he corrected. Text her something true and short, then don't reply again today. Unreliable. Send documents, not allowances. I let my thumb hover and then press send. Good line, Carter said, approving without smiling. Now we talk timing. Our visible countdown is not court, it's a public room. We want a space where people who already know you can see the truth's bones. A fellowship hall works. A union meeting room works. The faster we book, the more the rumor mill sets the table for us. Church hall, I said, where they prayed for travelers this morning. Aim 2 weeks out. Between now and then, we gather rungs for the ladder. When they try something because they will, we're standing under it with our hands clean. He pushed the legal pad toward me and angled his pen. Say out loud what you want back, not as poetry, as a request. My name on my house, I said. My quiet and my daughter's respect, if it can be bought with the truth. It can't be bought, he said, but it can be earned the hard way. We sat a moment. The plant in the corner made its own slow case for patience. Any questions, he asked. 1, I said. What do I do when someone tells me to calm down? Tells calm, he said. Then you show them a receipt. Angling the dock key with my index finger. It rang once, a small brass note. Carter capped his pen. No fireworks. Receipts first. He big up the key, a promise. Heart pulse. Calm felt like a tool I could hold again. Say, family tension exchange. Text thread. Sophia, please don't make a mess of this. We're already gone. Me, send documents, not allowances. Sophia, you're impossible. Me, I'm specific. The county recorder's lobby had the color scheme of a bruise. Gray chairs, purple carpet squares, yellowed posters about fraud. A machine spat deli numbers. I took mine, B62. Across the room, a metal stamp thumped every few seconds. A small hammer deciding who owned what. I sat with my folder on my knees and the dock key in my pocket like a coin I didn't want to spend. A television on mute played a courthouse PSA with cheerful captions about protecting elders. The subtitle made a few people smile without humor. Busy week, a man in line said to nobody. Folks transferring grandma again. A ripple of chuckles moved across the chairs. I looked up. Grandmas don't transfer, I said mild. Papers do. Sometimes the wrong ones. He smirked, then checked if I had heard my number. I had. I stood. Window 3 had a clerk who treated each request like a puzzle. with only one elegant solution. "Good morning," she said, the words crisp. "What can I pull for you?" "Full chain of title for Miller, Folly Beach address," I said, sliding the parcel number I'd copied from my tax bill. "Certified copies. That a rhythm you could tap a foot to. Period?" "Everything," I said, "from purchase to present." Her printer coughed, then settled into a long exhale. She flipped pages as they arrived. I trained for alignment. "I'll stamp as a set," she said. "Reduce the risk of misfile." One buzzed once, a text from Sophia. "Do you still have the spare keys? We'll need them picked up." Another, a heartbeat later. "Don't go to the county, waste of your time." I typed back. "Keys stay with locks. County keeps clocks." I didn't send it. I erased it and wrote, "Return the keys you changed." Then I put the phone face down on the counter edge and left the text unsent for now. No fireworks. "Here we are," the clerk said, laying a neat run of pages between us. Deeds marched in date order, sellers and buyers relieving each other like shifts. Halfway down the stack, a hiccup, my last recorded deed, and then nothing that lawfully bridged to any new owner. Silence do the pointing. "See it?" she asked. "I do." She snapped on a rubber fingertip, backtracked, then squared the stack. "No transfer recorded after yours. If someone is waving paper around, they haven't honored it here." "And here," I said, "is where it counts." "Certification?" "Yes, please." The chairs craned for a peek and then found the ceiling interesting. The clerk lifted the metal stamp with two hands, like a musician picking up an instrument. "Keep them flat," she said, "or the ink goes. Ready?" "Ready?" A fup. Octio 5 bit into the top corner with a satisfying bruise. Thump, thump. A rhythm of authority. I breathed with it. I asked, "Do you get many elders coming in after someone tells them not to?" "All the time," she said, not unkind. "They come anyway. Good habit." From the side of my folder, I removed a small index card and wrote, "Copy 1, original pull window 3. I placed the card beside the stack, slid my phone out, and took a single photograph from directly above. No shadows, no angle, the date stamp clean in frame. I didn't photograph the parcel number. No need to feed anyone anything I didn't have to. "Receipt's on the way," she said, printing a short strip that sang as it curled. "You'll want the notary journal next if you're thinking forgery." I'm always thinking forgery when someone tells me not to think about papers. "Friday, 11:15, she said, eyes on her screen. "That's your window." "Booked," I said. The man from the seats shuffled past on his way to window 4. He glanced at my stamped copies again. I met his eyes. "Turns out grandmas aren't the problem," I said, and let it sit. He cleared his throat. "Yeah, huh?" The clerk clipped the set, pressed them flat. "You'll sign for certified copies here." She tapped a line. I signed with my classroom hand, the one that used to write detentions and permission slips. In the right light, all authority looks the same. My phone lit again. "Sophia, Dad, don't make this adversarial. We'll get you money." I typed, "Money isn't ownership." I hit send, then put the phone back, face down. Microwave took one extra moment to arrange the documents on the counter, set the dock key at the edge of the shot, its ridges catching light, and took a second clean photo. The key wasn't proof. It was memory in metal. Still, it steadied my hand. Represent tension exchange text. Half, Sophia, we'll get you money. Unsure. Money isn't ownership. Plunge, you're being difficult. Flutter. I'm being exact. Thing to a flat envelope and wrote my name with square letters. "Keep them flat," she said again, mothering the moment. "Heat and pressure blur ink." "I'll treat them like glass," I said. At the door, a poster about deed fraud warned in block letters, "Don't sign what you don't understand." I thought about how often people sign what they do understand and hope the ink forgets. I stood in the sun and felt the heat through the envelope, the stamp rising under my palm like a pulse. Heart pulse. Relief tightened into resolve. I could feel the day take my side. Prohibited the envelope under my arm, the phone in my pocket, the key where it always rode. Wilmington, I said to myself. I stamped my own name. Claire's kitchen smelled like rosemary and floor cleaner, a combination that said someone cared enough to keep the place honest. She poured coffee into 2 mugs that didn't match. then set them on the table with the dock key between them, like a coin to decide something. "You look like a man who didn't sleep," she said. "I slept," I said. "Just woke up in smaller pieces." She sat. The whispers are getting louder. "Ryan's been tossing loans into any mouth that opens. I heard he even signed Sophia's name at least once. Maybe yours." "Rumors are wind," I said. "Receipts are brick." "You'll get your bricks," Claire said. "I just don't want you to be alone while the wind tries to push you into the river." We sipped. In the quiet, you could hear the house make small adjustments. Her phone buzzed. She glanced and ignored it. "What else?" I asked. "They saw Sophia's realtor at the clerk's office yesterday," she said. "Big bag of files. He said the woman laughed about older sellers being slow to sign." "Older sellers are slow to sign because we've read enough bad paper," I said. Claire smiled. "There's the teacher." My own phone pulsed on the table. "Sophia, please stop dragging people into this." I typed, then wiped the screen clean. I wasn't going to argue by thumb. "Walk?" Claire asked. We cut down Oak Street toward the diner. Evening was a soft blue. Moths started their aimless work around the last sun. Outside the county building, lights still burned on the second floor. I watched a courier jog to a van, bag bumping his hip. "Still moving," Claire said. "Good," I said. "I want them to keep their clocks honest." The diner's neon E flickered so the sign read dinner. Inside, the booth vinyl sighed when we slid in. The server with the careful eyeliner brought 2 waters and called me Hun. I like places where everybody's a version of Hun. It keeps the air level. "2 coffees," Claire said, "and fries. We're carb loading for courage." "Add pie," I said. "Courage needs a dessert." We leaned in. "If Ryan signed in her name, there's a notary somewhere pretending not to remember." "Notaries remember for money," I said, "and for their journals." Falsely, "You have an appointment?" "Friday," I said, 11:15. She looked pleased in the way good people do when a plan clicks into place. "Good." The server returned with hiss like a patient cat. She topped us off, then nodded toward the county building out the window. "You two following that zoo tonight?" she asked. "We're watching the weather," I said. She made a face. "A realtor couple was in earlier. Loud. Said they moved a stubborn listing without a showing." She tried to keep her voice neutral and failed. Like it was clever. Claire and I sat very still. "Names?" I asked. She shifted. "I'm not supposed to. Listen, it was just brag, okay? But you didn't hear it from me." "We didn't," Claire said gently. The server hesitated, then shrugged as if he begged. "He called her Soph, if that helps." She poured more coffee she knew I didn't need and retreated with the pot held like a secret. I let my breath out slow. "Wind," I said, "not brick." "But a cold wind," Claire said. "The kind that will make people huddle and talk." My phone trilled again. "Sophia, you're overreacting. Please don't embarrass me at church." I typed, "Don't worry, I won't. The truth will." Then I deleted it and typed, "We'll talk Sunday." I sent that and nothing else. "Good line," Claire said, reading my face. "Unsatisfying," which means correct. Unsatisfying is the friend of clean. She broke a fry and dipped it. "What happens if the notary says they misplaced the book?" "Then we asked to see the page where it should be," I said. "A missing rung is still a rung in a ladder. Sometimes it tells you more than a present one." "Teacher," she said again, and this time it sounded like a blessing. Tawa ate in the rhythmic way people eat when the important thing is the talking. Outside, a truck rattled past with a ladder jangling against the rack. Across the room, a TV played a local news story about a cat found 3 towns over and safely returned. The world makes space for both tragedy and kindness. It's the arithmetic I taught for years and still forget sometimes. Family tension exchange, live call. Sophia's name lit my screen. I let it ring once and answered. "Dad, why did you text 'We'll talk Sunday'? What does that mean?" "It means I'll be in a room where people listen," I said. "Don't threaten me. I'm promising clarity." I drew in a breath like a match being pulled. "You're too old to handle this." "Foreground helps with patience," I said. "Patience helps with paper." I ended the call before she could, a small mercy to myself. Claire set her hands around her mug. You all right? I'm not a house, I said, but I'm going to act like one. No sudden movements, all foundation. Friday, she reminded me. Friday, I agreed. 11:15. We split the pie. It tasted like cinnamon had married sugar and stayed faithful. On the walk back, the county building was dark now. The clerk had gone home with her bag. A moth failed its geometry against a streetlight globe and kept failing. We paused to watch it because sometimes you watch small persistence to remember your own. At Claire's door, she put a hand on my forearm. You've got names, a time, and a room to aim for, she said. You won't be alone in any of them. I know, I said. That helps. She handed me a scrap of paper with a first name, just a first name. If the server remembers more on her next shift, she'll call me. Scrap under my phone case, not as evidence, only as a string around a finger. Set the dock key on the wood and rested a fingertip on its teeth. It felt like a small tool and not just a memory. Heart pulse. Anger stayed leashed, patience did the walking. I picked up the key, pocketed it, and stood. Paper has bones. Lurie's office was smaller than I expected, a glass door with a bell that chimed like a polite throat clear. A wall clock ticked the late morning along, each second a neat square. I gave my name. The receptionist checked a ledger, slid a visitor badge across, and pointed me to a chair that didn't pretend to be comfortable. When my turn came, the notary, Ms. Pruitt, stood and offered a hand that said she shook a dozen each day and remembered none unless paid to. Mr. Miller, you requested to view recent entries relating to your name. I did, I said. I also want to confirm whether my signature appears on any deed or affidavit in the past month. We'll begin with the journal, she said, professional as a ruler. May I see your ID? Playwright, I handed over my license. She matched photo to face, then to name, with a small nod. The desk clock ticked behind her elbow, 11:14. She unlocked a drawer and brought out a black book with numbered pages and a spine that creaked like it had opinions. I'll open to the relevant week, she said. You may view the entries here. No photos, but I'll certify a copy of the line if appropriate. That's appropriate, I said. Her finger walked the dates, then stopped. Here we are. She turned the book so it faced me but kept her fingertips resting on the margins like a museum guard. The entry block was as tidy as a chalkboard on inspection day. Date, time, 10:37 a.m. Name written in a hand that belonged to me, the way a forged smile belongs to a mouth. To the right, document type, deed transfer, ID type, driver's license. The last column recorded a thumbprint impression the size of a smudge that thought too much of itself. I kept my voice even. On this date at 10:37, I was at the Riverside Clinic for a blood draw. They timestamped like it's religion. Ms. Pruitt's eyebrows made a brief tent. Do you have that timestamp? Relieved, I said. Not on me, I can obtain it. She checked a second list taped to the inside cover, her own sanity check, I guessed, and returned to the line. I notarized an instrument presented by a man who identified himself as Thomas Miller. He had a driver's license. Did he have my face? I asked, not smiling. I recall a mask, she said. We were between policies. I recorded the number as presented. May I read the number aloud? Schizophrenic, she said, ready to stop me if I sounded like a camera. I read it. My license number differs by 2 digits. The rest of me did not move, breached out through her nose. That's significant. Cauterized is what you saw, I said. What you saw may not be what was real. Mr. Miller, she said carefully, I maintain accurate records. If an error was made, it will be corrected through affidavit and notice. Quos. I don't need a villain in this room, I said. I need a journal that tells the truth it can tell. The rest will test elsewhere. Grateful, maybe, to be a record and not a suspect. I can certify the line for you. Crier, please include the time. Of course. She flipped to a duplicate form and used a strip of carbon like a magician running a scarf through a ring. Certification includes date, time, document type, ID type and number as recorded, and my seal. She set her seal like a small weight beside the page, but did not press it yet. I will not copy the thumbprint impression. That is for law enforcement request only. Alleged that won't be necessary today. Underestimated, I let myself look at the handwriting in the signature field. It did a reasonable impression of me if you squinted and had never graded a stack of my papers. The final flourish was too proud. I've never been proud on paper. Pruitt slid the certification across for my review. The time 10:37 a.m. stood on the page like a witness who knew when to speak. "You'll need to take this to your counsel," she said. "He'll know whether to lay it beside your clinic timestamp or swear an affidavit." "I'll do both," I said. "I taught kids that you don't rely on one example to prove a rule." She pressed the seal, a firm circular promise in the corner. No photo, just the mark in my memory cataloged with it. I signed a receipt acknowledging the view. At Carter's office, the bell chimed again. Every place with a bell today wanted to be polite about the truth. He waved me in before the receptionist could say my name. "Well?" he asked. "Journal shows a Thomas Miller at 10:37 a.m., I said, placing the certification on his desk like a chess piece. "Driver's license number off by 2 digits. Deed transfer, thumbprint we can't copy. I was at Riverside Clinic at 10:30 with a printed ticket and a needle in my arm." He read, lips moving once on the digits. "That's the sort of ugly we can make beautiful," he said. "We'll request the clinic's timestamp as a letterhead print and an attestation from staff that you were present then. Side by side with this certification, it points to identity misuse." He tapped the seal. "The journal is your ladder rung." I took the dock key from my pocket and hung it on the tab of his manila file, a small flag marking the page. "I want something to hold while this climbs." "Good," he said. "See paperwork. If anything hits the clerk—" "It will," I said. "We'll drop a notice of dispute and an emergency hold. But the better play is public daylight in a room that recognizes your name. The hall." I nodded. People prayed for travelers last Sunday. I think they'd like a different prayer next time. "Probation, I'll book it," he said. 2 Sundays out if we can get it. "Meanwhile, keep your communications with your daughter minimal and civil." I resized out my phone and wrote a message I didn't send. "Bring your own signature next time." I deleted it. I wrote, "Please collect your documents. We'll review them soon." I didn't send that one either. I put the phone away. In prison, watch me not send. "That's restraint," he said. "Signatures are presents," I said. "Presents can't be forged." He lifted the certification and squared it with the desk edge. "Choose a room that already believes in you." On the seal's impression and the quiet weight of the time next to my clinic memory. Heart pulse. Relief didn't flare, it crystallized. Cold, sharp, usable. I took the key off the file and pocketed it. The mail truck coughed to a stop in front of my house and exhaled dust like it had secrets to deliver. Saturday heat pressed down friendly as a hand that didn't know its own strength. I opened the screen and stepped onto the porch. "Line back. I'm late, Mr. Miller," the carrier said, lifting a stack. "Route's a mess today." "Mess keeps the day honest," I said. He slid a thick, rigid envelope to the top. Certified mail stared up at me in red like a warning label. The weight had bad manners. "Need a signature?" I asked. "Not this one," he said. "Already certified by sender. Have a good one." He slapped the truck door. The tires chewed the shell grit into whispers and moved on. My neighbor across the street pretended to admire his crepe myrtle with the solemnity of a botanist. His eyes kept finding the rectangle in my hands. "Big paperwork today?" he called, a little too casual. "Heavier when someone borrows your name," I said, and let the screen door breathe shut between us. I carried the envelope inside like it might bite if jostled. The kitchen counter cleared itself when I swept my arm. I set the mailer down with its address label facing out, still sealed. I didn't rush. I turned the envelope so the seam showed and reached for my phone. "Photo first. Sealed," I said out loud, for the record only I would hear. I angled the frame so the wall clock above the fridge sat clean in the top right, 11:26, and took one centered shot, square on, no glare. The sound of the shutter felt like a small guard dog I had finally fed. The neighbor's glance flicked through the window and then away, satisfied there'd been a ritual. I let him have his curiosity. People need their stories even when they aren't invited to the truth. My phone buzzed. "Sophia. Do not touch any mail about the house. Forward it. I'll handle. Tightened and deleted twice, then settled on, I will preserve it. Send your copies. I fetched a letter opener, the thin kind that obeys risks. I slit the edge in one clean motion and eased the stack out. A cover sheet full of faux courtesy. A transfer deed with my name performing an impression of my handwriting. And a notary seal that had the right circle and the wrong history. My signature lifted a little too proud at the end. I don't have pride on paper. I didn't touch any printed surfaces with my fingertips. 2 index fingers on the edges, a thumb on the corner. I laid them flat and let air settle. The phone rang. Thomas, Carter's voice clicked in before hello. Breathe, tell me what you have. Eiler, I said, certified. I photographed it sealed with the kitchen clock in frame. Inside is a transfer deed bearing my signature and a cover sheet. I haven't argued with anyone about it. Good, he said. Second photo, lay the open mailer next to the packet. Include something static, a ruler, the edge of a book, so the scale is clear. No codes, no addresses. Then scan to PDF, label forged deed, incoming, 1126 and drop to the intake. Do not post, do not email to anyone except me. Understood. Listen carefully. I expect an attempted closing in 5 business days. That's how this pressure works. We will file a freeze and notice at the first whiff of recording. Today, all you do is preserve. Preserve is the only thing I'm good at, I said. Wrong, he said. You also keep your voice low while the room gets hot. Call me when the scans are in. Has hung up before I could thank him, because some instructions work better without punctuation. Professional, I arranged the open mailer and packet side by side and slid a hardcover book to the corner so the frame had a known angle. I took 2 photos and checked for glare. Then I fed the pages through the scanner. The machine hummed like a small organ practicing one note. 1, 2, 3 pages. The progress bar crept like a cautious animal. I saved the file with the label he said and placed it in the secure folder we'd set up. Tidy names are small mercies. The dock key sat by the sink where I'd tossed it earlier. I picked it up and pressed it into the mailer's soft cardboard, just enough to leave an oval dent, a nothing mark, a small claim. Boundary under attack, boundary answered. Family tension exchange, text. Sophia, forward all house mail to me. You don't understand the process, asbestos. Send your copies. I'm preserving originals. This adversarial. Me, I'm making it accurate. Demolished. Outside, the neighbor coughed, realized he'd coughed, and went back to admiring the tree. I didn't give him a wave. I don't reward surveillance with hospitality. I dialed Carter back. Photos done, scan labeled, uploaded, I said. Mailer intact. I'm putting everything back. Precarious. Place the packet back into the mailer. Do not seal it, and set it in a safe spot. Start an evidence log. Handwritten is fine. First line. Today's date and time. Received forged deed packet. Photographed, sealed, scanned, returned to mailer. Leave 1 blank line for the next entry. That blank line matters. Understood, I said again. I slid the papers back into their envelope and set the whole thing in a shallow tray on the counter. I pulled an old-school gradebook from a drawer. Grid lines never felt so comforting, and wrote the first entry in block letters. My pen made a clean sound I've missed since I retired. Heart pulse. Seeing my name stolen felt like hearing myself say goodbye. Instead, I wrote it back down. Roofing, the tray, found a clear corner of the pantry and placed it there as if setting down a small animal to sleep. Then I set the evidence log beside it and stared at the blank second line. Comentarios, 1 slot still empty, I said. Good. Tomorrow can earn it. The wind-off folly carried sand like a handful of salt thrown at a wound. I climbed the porch steps the way I always did, one hand on the rail, weight over the left knee that still argued with me. But today I wasn't coming home. I was taking attendance. The dock key lay cool in my palm. Brass on sun looks like justice if you hold it steady. Tasia set the phone to record a short clip, no commentary, just the view, and lifted the key to the knob. The cylinder turned, honest as ever. I pressed the shoulder of the door and tried to throw the bolt, Nothing. A solid, stubborn no. Wildfires, I tried again. The key turned, the bolt didn't. The new hardware had that factory-stiff shine people mistake for integrity. Across the street, the neighbor in a visor shaded his eyes and lifted his phone like he was tasting the light. A gull laughed at us both. I kept my voice low for the clip. Key inserted. Cylinder turns. Bolt won't throw. 10 seconds, then stop. I tucked the phone away. This wasn't a performance, it was a record. Down the block, a code enforcement truck crept by, tires crunching shells, the radio hissing a half-heard dispatch. The officer looked once at the key in my hand and once at the door, then kept rolling. The kind of public memory you can't subpoena, but that still exists. The handle clicked from the inside and the door opened, just enough to reveal Sophia's eyebrow before the rest of her. She let the gaps speak first. Even the house knows who owns it, she said, all sugar and cut. Keys don't do. Subjected the way people do when they believe they're on the clever side of a line. You're embarrassing yourself, Dad. Embarrassment pass, I said, letting the words land where they needed. Records don't. She stepped onto the porch and let the door fall shut behind her, a soft thud that sounded like somebody closing a book they hadn't read. You don't have to do this, she said, glancing toward the neighbor as if the audience were the offense and not the act. We have an escrow call Monday morning. This will all be done. There it was, the verbal countdown with a bow on it. Monday, I said, then today is a good day to remember what you're about to say out loud in a room that listens. She said, you're confused. I'm specific, I said, and lifted the dock key so she could see it. It caught a thread of sun and threw it between us. Behind her, the dark strip where a new strike plate had been screwed in looked like a bruise. I set my palm flat against the door. When did you change it? She made a little shrug. Safety. Nobody wants a wandering elder. Elders wander less when their doors still know them. A couple in flip-flops paused at the edge of the walk like they'd found a street musician and were deciding whether to tip. Their silence was the cheaper coin. Why don't you go home? She said, the condescension bright as polish. We'll send you money when the funds clear. Money buys groceries, I said. It doesn't buy back a signature. She looked over my shoulder. The code truck turned the corner and disappeared. She lost a witness and gained a little bravado. You always were dramatic. Drama is when people pretend, I said. I don't. She folded her arms. Dad, please, don't make this worse. I'm not making it anything, I said. I'm watching it happen, and I'm writing it down. Who are you going to show? She tilted her chin at the street. Him? The neighbor flinched and pretended to look at a cloud. You think a crowd will save you? I think a crowd will see me, I said. That's enough. Family tension exchange, doorstep. You're embarrassing yourself. Me, embarrassment passes, records don't. Sophia, you can't even open your own door. Me, you can't open your own truth. Sophia, stop filming me. Me, I filmed the lock. She rolled her eyes like a teenager who'd been promoted to management without the training. We'll talk Monday after escrow. Don't call anyone important before then. I already did, I said. I called the truth. Her mouth tightened. You can stand here as long as you want. It won't change anything. It will change one thing, I said. It will change who believes you. The wind lifted the door hanger and smacked it once against the wood, a hollow clack that sounded too much like a metronome for a sermon. She flinched. I didn't. I wasn't locked out. She was locked inside her lie. My calm felt like a key she didn't own. I slid the dock key back into my pocket. Enjoy your afternoon, I said. We'll use Sunday evening for something else. What's Sunday evening? She asked, a small crack in the glass. A room where sound carries, I said, and stepped off the porch. I didn't look back. You don't give a thief your eyes on the way out. The boardwalk sand ground under my soles. The gull laughed again. Or maybe it said nothing and the wind did the rest. At the curb, I glanced across the street. The neighbor kept his phone up a second longer, then lowered it. Guilty as a boy caught with a slingshot. He didn't wave. Ty Carter had 3 windows open and a pen parked in the legal pad binding like it was idling. He didn't say hello. He pointed at a chair and began. We convert leverage into schedule, he said. 2 tracks, freeze prep and venue. Venue first, I said. Public ears keep private lies small. Smiled with only one side of his mouth, then clicked an email and turned his monitor toward me. Subject: Fellowship Hall booking. Sun, 2 weeks, 6 p.m. The header sat there like a bell before the first strike. That's our clock, he said. We'll forward it to you. It needs to be the only date anyone remembers. Good, I said. I like simple math. He slid a draft across the desk. Freeze packet, notice of dispute, affidavit shell, clerk cover, all blank where they should be blank. We won't file unless the portal shows movement. If it does, we file same hour. You do not go to war on social media. You do not announce your filing. You breathe, sign, and I pull the lever. I set the dock key on the corner of the packet. Paperweight by temperament. Understood. Expect jabs, he said, tapping the pad. Creditors who think you're an informal guarantor. Realtors fishing for statements. Your daughter trying to set the story. Our job is to keep the story short. The desk phone rang, then stopped. Then rang again like it had changed its mind. Carter nodded at it. There's one now. Have we pick anything up, I said. One line for me to use? Consent, he said. Put that in your notes. I put it in my head. He forwarded the email. My phone thunked with the new message. I opened it and the header filled my palm. Fellowship Hall, Sun, 2 weeks, 6 p.m. That line didn't need any attachments. It contained a room. Maya leaned in, a stapler in one hand. Heads up, the clerk's portal is lagging but still time-stamping. If something posts, it'll have a time even if the page loads like molasses. Thank you, Maya, Carter said. She pointed the stapler like a polite baton. I'll keep a lane open for you. When the door clicked shut again, Carter picked up his desk phone and keyed in a code. Let's clear any creditor nonsense today. He put it on speaker. Collections, a voice said, smooth as a lobby floor. This is Grant. This is counsel for Thomas Miller. You called him. Ah, yes. Paper rustle, performative. We have notes indicating Mr. Miller is an informal guarantor for an obligation belonging to a Ryan Wallace. We're seeking acknowledgement and a goodwill payment to keep the file cooperative. Nothing until Carter tipped his pen toward me. Then I kept it short. Relation isn't consent, I said. Put that in your notes. A pause. Sir, this is standard practice. Your practice isn't my obligation, I said. If you have a signed instrument with my name on it, send it to my counsel. If you don't, remove my number from this script. Ragazza tried the warm chuckle strangers use on old men. We can be reasonable. I am, I said. That's why I'm on speaker with a witness. Carter added, any future calls go to me. If you represent a recorded claim, provide it. If not, this conversation is over. Another pause. Understood, the line clicked. Carter uncapped his pen. Clean, no adjectives, good. My phone buzzed again. Sophia. Do not involve the church. This is private family business. I typed. Church is where people listen. She came back. You're cruel. Truth isn't cruel, I wrote, then deleted it and sent, see you Sunday. Carter watched the restraint land. You'll want to talk about the money, he said quietly. Don't. Talk about the room. I can do rooms, I said. I taught in them. We walked the freeze steps aloud so my hands could memorize them. Sign, scan, file. My job was to keep everything boring. Boring wins. He tapped the email again. This clock does 2 things. It gives the rumor mill a date to aim its appetite, and it buys us exactly one tidy story. If they escalate before then, we file the freeze and keep the story just as tidy. 2 weeks, I said. Condemned. 2 Sundays, he said. People remember Sundays. Fallback. We sat with the rhythm of printers and the breath of HVACs for a minute. I liked it. Offices like this are the opposite of storms. They carve channels so storms have somewhere to go when they hit. Thomas, Carter said, pen finally still, you're doing this correctly. Feels like standing still while everyone else runs, I said. That's what correct feels like from the inside. He gathered the packet, squared it, and set it back in front of me. I slid the dock key onto it again. It looked right there. A small metal sentence. Heart pulse. Fear tried to make noise. Resolve outlived it. I lifted my phone once more. The header stayed clean, the time clear, the church name like a reassurance. Fellowship Hall, son, 2 weeks, 6 p.m. Say it out loud, Carter said. Don't give them anything messy to twist, I said. The church office had that middle-of-the-week quiet, copy machine asleep, hymnals stacked like red bricks. A paper calendar hung near the door with a pencil on a string. The admin, Mrs. Lane, wrote small and neat, the kind of handwriting that keeps bake sales solvent. I've got you for Sunday, 2 weeks, 6 p.m., she said, circling the square with a careful loop and adding Miller in block letters. We can open the fellowship hall at 5:30 if you need to lay things out. I need a table, 2 chairs, and a room that listens, I said. You'll get all 3, she said. Do you want coffee service? Water's fine. Truth doesn't need caffeine. She smirked. It helps the murmurs. She tore off a small card with the booking on it and handed it to me. Took a roll of blue painter's tape from my pocket and, without making a speech about it, I taped my dock key beside the calendar card on the corkboard. A tiny gavel in waiting. Mrs. Lane didn't blink. Symbolic? Practical, I said. I won't lose it if it's in sight. She nodded like she'd seen stranger talismans taped to this wall. We'll set extra chairs. Set them, I said. People like to feel they arrived early enough to choose their seat. Back at Carter's office, Maya had an email draft ready with a witness list column and a subject line that did half the work. Fellowship Hall, Sun, 6 p.m., listening session. Carter read it once and deleted 3 adjectives. Shortened is stronger, he said. We invite people who already believe in process. Claire, 2 deacons, a couple of your old colleagues, and the union rep from your clinic data certify the timestamp. We don't send this to anyone who thinks volume is the same as truth. Understood, I said. I taught teenagers. I know who sits in front to talk and who sits in front to listen. He grinned. Send. Maya's keyboard clattered for 6 brisk seconds. Out, she said. My phone buzzed on cue. Voicemail from Sophia, then a text. If you turn our private family matters into a church circus, I will be heard Sunday. A second later, you don't get to humiliate me. Windshields into the voicemail with the speaker low. Her voice was shake steady. Don't you dare bring strangers into this. I'm a good person. I will not be shamed by you in front of them. I texted back. Bring any documents you want considered. I stared at the 3 dots that didn't arrive and put the phone face down. Propane watched my hands. Good. No adjectives, no threats. We let the room have gravity. Where gravity was loud, I said. Classrooms, faculty meetings, funerals. This one will be polite and heavy. Exactly, he said. Between now and then, you stay off Facebook. You answer no calls from numbers you don't recognize. And if someone corners you in a parking lot, you say, Sunday at 6, and walk. I can do that, I said. I was born to walk away from bad arguments. Maya slid a clipboard toward me. Volunteer ushers for the hall. I can put Claire at the door with a sign-in sheet. Keep the sheet simple, Carter said. Names only, no comments. We aren't polling a grievance. We're witnessing a sequence. I pictured the hall, the folding chairs, the stack of hymnals, the scuffed stage. Rooms make truth louder, I said. It's why people whisper in museums. Put that on a mug, Maya said. We sketched a simple flow. Doors at 5:30, a table up front with a small speaker, my voicemail cued, then Carter's packet of exhibits in order, deed gap, notary mismatch, IP log header, freeze receipt, no digressions, no crowd debate, one quiet line from me at the end. It felt like lesson planning, the good kind, where you know which minute carries the weight and which minute is white space. Sophia texted again. This is harassment. You're turning people against me. I typed, I'm turning facts into sentences. Sunday 6 o'clock. Then I deleted the second sentence and sent only, Sunday 6 o'clock. Carter approved with a nod. You're getting good at leaving the sharpened part in your drafts. Lane called from the church line, her voice cheerful even across miles of copper. We found a second wireless mic. The first is fussy. I'll label them. You'll have an HDMI if you need it. Unleashed, I said. Sound carries without slides. She said, I like to be ready. I could hear her writing the label. People who write labels are the infrastructure of mercy. Before I left, I stopped by the calendar again. The square was there, ink circled, Miller in its center like a target I meant to walk to and stand on. I tapped the dock key with one finger. It made a small sound the corkboard swallowed. Family tension exchange. Voicemail, text. Summarized on page. Sophia, don't make a church circus. I'll be heard Sunday. Go. Text. Bring documents you want considered. Sophia. You're trying to shame me. Mapped. Unsent. Truth isn't a costume. Me. Sent. Sunday, 6 o'clock. On my way out, I passed the sanctuary. Empty pews have a way of measuring you without speaking. I let them. The carpet smelled faintly of lemon oil and old programs. Heart pulse, calm, tightened into purpose. A date on a wall turned my anger into work. Door Maya stopped me with a single sheet. Names of those who'd already replied, yes. Claire was first, a deacon, a colleague from my school days. The custodian from the building wrote just, I remember him. He's fair. Good list, Carter said. I said. Mrs. Lane's voice echoed in my head as I stepped into the afternoon heat. We'll set extra chairs. Square on the bank's wall calendar. I took a ticket, sat where the camera couldn't see my screen, and kept my breathing even. The lobby monitor blinked a banner. System latency. Please be patient. I can do patient, I told the teller who apologized on behalf of electricity. I taught teenagers. She smiled like relief had found a chair. Fraud desk rep number 1, name badge J. Patel, met me at a side door and walked me to a glassed-in room that made privacy feel scenic. Mr. Miller, you're requesting confirmation of login activity tied to certain transactions on your account? Debtor only, I said. Timestamp and device line. No payload, no account balances. Understood, she said. We can email a customer-facing security notice that includes date, time, and a generic device/location string. We don't disclose IP numbers, but the header line identifies the device class. Will that meet your need? Oxygen will meet Thursday's need. She typed. I watched her keystrokes like they were a metronome for my heart. The dock key in my pocket pushed a small curve into the fabric. I like the weight. We'll send it to your registered email, she said. Please confirm receipt here so I can note chain of control. Chain of custody, I said gently. She smiled. We call idea. She pressed enter. Sent. I opened my phone and watched the subject line arrive. Security notice. Recent login activity. I tapped, and there it was. Thursday, 10:42 a.m., and a device string that might as well have read Ryan's toy if banks were allowed to be plain. Stand the phone so I can witness the screen, Patel said. I propped it. She initialed a form. You may take a photo of the header only for your personal records. No body text. Tray the phone on the copier glass so its bezel squared to the corner. The copier light caught the dock key's reflection in the glass where it had slipped from my pocket. The key doubled like a little certainty. I snapped a single picture. Subject line, the date time, and the device/location line. No numbers beyond what flipped leverage. Thank you, I said. Position in the lobby, the latency banner vanished. The ticket printer chirped out a new line of numbers for other people's Thursdays. I stepped outside and called Carter. Header secured, I said. Thurs, 10:42 a.m., plus device locator tying to Ryan's brand of phone. He said, forward the email, not the photo. Keep the photo local. We'll land it in the hall. Also, the escrow office says earliest close is next Wednesday, if no holds. That's our verbal clock, but we don't show it on paper. Now steel yourself, he added. Collections called my office again. Expect your line to ring. It rang before he finished saying it. I switched over. This is Dana with Premier Collections, the voice purred. We show you as an informal guarantor on a Wallace debt. We can avoid escalation if you provide a small goodwill payment today. If you have paper, send it, I said. If not, end it. Sorry, You're calling the wrong person, I said. Future calls go to counsel. Remove my number. Sigh. Noted. I ended the line and let the quiet step back into place. Heart pulse. Numbers don't love me, they serve me. I set them to it. Bank number 2 had a fraud desk with softer chairs and a man named Lewis who wore regret like an accessory. We can't disclose IP addresses, he said, but we can confirm that your account changes originated from a device previously associated with R. Wallace. Confirmation is Thursday's friend, I said. Put it in a sentence I can remember. Gay, he typed, then read aloud. Security event confirmed. Credential use from a device associated with the name on file, R.W. On Thursday 10:42 a.m. Eastern, no action required by customer. Investigation open. Communicated, what live a good life on Sunday. He looked up. Sunday? A room where people sidewalk, my phone flashed Sophia. I answered. Stop calling banks, she said. You're making me look guilty. Then see me in the hall Sunday, I said. Bring what you believe clears you. You love paperwork more than people. Menace people enough to use paperwork correctly. You'll ruin my name. You sold mine first, I said, but only in my head, out loud. Sunday at 6. Bully back before she could make me a villain I wasn't. I forwarded the security notice email and put the header photo into the same private folder as the deed gap and the notary certification. Maya checked the subject lines, trimmed the file names, and nodded. Tidy, she said. Tidy holds. So does a freeze, I said. Carter held up a palm. 2 more days of quiet. No extra calls, no commentary. Sunday does the heavy lifting. Unleashed. The office AC clicked off. The room felt honest again. Outside, a delivery truck banged its door like a gavel practice. I stood, pocketed the key, and let my pulse find the slow lane. Unrestricted, I held the dock key under the glass again, just to see the reflection double. Not proof, not even a prop, just a promise. I slid it away and closed the lid. Freeze beats unwind, I said, and walked out into the light. Friday put a brittle shine on everything. The church hallway smelled like lemon and wet broom. I walked in carrying only my phone and the steadiness I practice when storms introduce themselves. Blackmail with a gray ponytail eased a cleaning cart across my path. The wheel squeaked like a polite no. Sir, board said no staging today? I'm not staging, I said. I'm breathing. He nodded at the office door. They're breathing too. The mop bucket sloshed. He backed the cart to let me pass, eyes sliding to the calendar as if it could explain us. Claire met me at the corkboard wall. You okay? Define okay, I said. She tilted her head toward the paper calendar. Yesterday's clean circle, sun 6 p.m. Miller looked like a target someone hadn't shot yet. Mrs. Lane came out from the office holding a small red sticky and a pen. She looked like a person who hates being the messenger and does it anyway because mercy requires accuracy. Thomas, she said, voice even, the board received a letter from an attorney representing your daughter. It requests postponement for peace and claims community confusion. Until the pastor reviews, I'm directed to mark the reservation under review. He room locked? I asked. No, she said, just the approval. A deacon in a blue blazer hovered at the door frame, already sighing. We want harmony, brother. Peace without clarity, I said, is just quiet confusion. He winced. Perhaps wait a week. Truth doesn't gain vitamins in the pantry, I said. Mrs. Lane looked from me to the deacon, then to the square on the wall. She wrote, under review, in neat caps and pressed the sticky over the corner of Miller. It covered the last 2 letters, like erasing a little bit of me and promising to fix it later. Across the hall, a couple from the choir whispered, with the hunched posture of people trying to be kind and failing. The words drifted anyway. Is he the confused dad from Facebook? Someone had been busy online. One jittered. Sophia. Cancel it, Dad. You're scaring people. I'll tell the board you're not well. I typed, rooms don't cancel truth. I didn't send it. I sent, I'll be here Sunday. Claire's hand found my sleeve, a tether. Breathe, she said. I am, I said. It's just thinner air. We stepped outside to cooler light. I tried the ATM by the church lot because I wanted a simple task to obey me. The screen thought about my card, then beeped 3 times and spit a receipt that read, "Temporarily restricted." The paper came out warm, then cooled to useless. I called the bank. The IVR made me listen to a kind voice explain patience to me. Finally, a clerk came on. "Security hold in process," she said. "No relief today. We're sorry for the inconvenience." "I don't need sorrow," I said, "just clocks that keep time." Mrs. Lane waited with the pen still in her fingers, as if there might be a second action that looked like kindness. The deacon tried one more sigh. "Brother Thomas," he said, palms out, "for peace." "Flushed arrives when the crowd hears the whole sentence," I said, not the caption. "Unbearable one," and let his hands fall. "Then keep your tone kind." "My tone is furniture," I said. "Solid, not sharp." Serdale posted while we stood there. The notification landed like a tap on the shoulder. "Watching my father spiral is heartbreaking. He's being manipulated. Please pray he accepts help." The comments began to bloom like algae. Claire read my face, not my screen. "They're trying to make Sunday about sympathy." "For whom?" I said. "Depends on what a room hears." Mrs. Lane looked pained. "Thomas, I have to..." She lifted the red sticky like a tiny stop sign, then pressed it into place across the calendar square. It made the softest sound, like tape sealing a letter you wish you didn't have to mail. A couple from Tuesday night Bible study approached and stalled, eyes on the sticky. "Maybe wait," the woman murmured. "Travelers?" She stopped, realizing the loaded word. "Get prayers?" I said. "Witnesses get chairs. We're setting chairs." The janitor eased his cart past again, quick eyes on the square, then away. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. His presence was a sentence fragment I could live with. Family tension exchange text. "Sophia, cancel it, Dad. I'll have the pastor call you." "Me, Sunday, if you want to be heard, bring documents." "Negligence, you're confused." "Me, I'm steady." Claire squeezed my arm. "This is part of it," she said. "Let them stack the weight. Sunday will carry." Heart pulse. I could feel the room tilt under my feet. Then I stood anyway. I reached into my pocket and almost left the dock key on the admin counter. Habit nearly surrendered to fatigue. I closed my hand and pocketed it again. Boundary threatened, boundary reclaimed. The deacon cleared his throat, offered me a paper cup of water like a peace offering from a small nation. I took it, drank, returned it empty. "Thank you," I said. "You'll see me standing where you circled my name." "We'll discuss," he said, already folding into committee posture. Outside, a breeze lifted a corner of a bulletin and let it fall. The lot smelled like hot gravel and choir robes. My phone buzzed again. No new words from Sophia, only the earlier post collecting hearts like votes that count for nothing in a courtroom. Mrs. Lane came out, the door's closer hissing behind her. She stood at the corkboard with a little red slip in hand, then pressed it down one last time with the flat of her palm. "Under review," she said, half to herself, half to the hallway. Claire leaned closer to me. 2 days, she murmured. I looked at the square, the note, the date. D2, I said. The kitchen clock ticked too loud for a Saturday night. I pressed the phone to my ear as Carter's steady voice cut through the silence. Cursor on the portal. Freeze option. Don't click twice. Load each step like stepping across ice. The laptop glow lit the dock key I'd set beside the trackpad. Its edge left a faint ridge in my palm. Conflicting answer request shows, I said. The screen pulse pending transfer dollar, blocked but obvious. Take, don't panic. Upload the freeze form now, attach ID, Carter ordered. Sophia's text pinged in green on the corner of my phone. You can't stop it. I tapped send anyway. My cursor spun. The bank IVR chimed back on speaker. Hold remains, contact office hours. I whispered, terror tapped. I let it knock and not enter. Claire's earlier call replayed in my head, her vow to be there Sunday. I clenched harder not to crumble. You've got 5 minutes, Carter said. Check the header stamp when it lands. The email alert finally arrived. I opened it. Received 11:58 p.m. No processed, just hanging. Sophia tried calling. I didn't answer. I texted instead, process outruns panic, see me Sunday. Sophia's silence stretched. If truth were fragile, I muttered, lies wouldn't need this many locks. The dock key glinted on the table. I reached for it and slipped it back into my pocket. The screen glared. The word pending sat like a stone. I closed the laptop and said aloud, D1 holds its breath. The fellowship hall filled the way a tide does, quiet, then suddenly everywhere. Folding chairs clicked open, a low murmur braided with the hum of the soda machine. On the back wall, the hall clock said 6 p.m. in plain black numbers. I stood at a table with Carter, my palms flat, the dock key set at the edge like a small brass promise. Knocking, Mrs. Lane tapped the mic. Thank you for keeping comments to later. This is a listening session. She glanced to the side where a deacon stood with arms folded and good intentions wrestling with procedure. Carter didn't clear his throat. He didn't have to. We'll proceed in order, one exhibit on audio, the rest described and available to counsel. He nodded to me. I raised my eyes to the room. Friends, curious neighbors, people who'd prayed for, travelers, people who'd read captions and wondered. I spoke the way I used to start class after a fire drill, calm into chatter. My name is Thomas Miller. I taught here 38 years. I'm here for clarity. A door opened at the back. Sophia came in fast, Ryan 2 steps behind, wearing sunglasses indoors and a jacket that thought it had authority. She didn't sit. She aimed for the front, chin up, as if altitude were evidence. Dad, we can do this privately, she said into the open air. We tried, I said. Now we do it correctly. Carter lifted a small speaker and set his phone beside it. He checked that the hall clock still read a hair past 6 and said, Exhibit A, voicemail playback. He pressed a single button. Her voice filled the room, as bright and brittle as the day it arrived. Dad, tomorrow we're flying to Europe. Your beach house has already been sold. Bye. The words bounced off the tile and came back smaller. The clock ticked to 6:01. No one spoke. Even the soda machine swallowed its hum. Sophia flushed, then rallied. That was taken out of context. Contaxi, Carter said, voice even. No new audio, just witness and paper ladders. He kept pacing tight. To the record, the deed change shows a gap. Certified copies exist. We won't waive them at you. Next, the notary journal records a Thomas Miller at 10:37 a.m. executing a deed transfer. That Thomas Miller presented a driver's license number that differs from Mr. Miller's by 2 digits. He kept his eyes on the room. Mr. Miller was elsewhere at 10:30 a.m. Commemorate Ninick Rep, a union board member in a short-sleeved shirt with a name patch, stepped up to the spare mic. Riverside Clinic, intake log, he said. We stamped Mr. Miller 10:30 a.m. for a blood draw. I supervised shift. I can attest he was present in my waiting room then. Reciber scoffed. So what? People leave clinics. Not in 7 minutes with a parking lot that size, the rep said. Not with our phlebotomist that fast. A ripple of low, grateful laughter wandered through the chairs and was gone. Carter continued, measured. Bank security notices confirmed the account credential used for associated activity was from a device previously tied to R. Wallace on Thursday, 10:42 a.m. The bank doesn't give us numbers. They give us sentences. We collected their sentence. Ryan took a step like a man about to perform. Anybody can say device. Across the aisle, Claire lifted her chin. Anybody can, but a bank did. She kept her voice soft enough to make people lean in. Thomas didn't shout online. He came here. That's why I believe him. Sophia swung toward me, anger rising to cover fear. You set me up. You set yourself up with my name, I said. A house doesn't make a daughter, a signature doesn't make a father. Her breath hitched. I watched it land. I didn't press. Carter placed a final page on the table. Last procedural note. Last night, before any recording could post, we e-filed a freeze. We hold the receipt. It reads, received 11:58 p.m. No drama, just timing. The deacon unfolded his arms. A small surrender. The room stayed quiet the way a classroom stays quiet when even the distractible ones realize there's only one important line left to hear. Now, Carter said, sliding a single sheet toward Sophia. A stipulation, an agreement to unwind any purported transfer. To refrain from encumbering or attempting to sell the property. To return any keys changed. And to acknowledge that Mr. Miller's name remains on title. We will file it Monday morning. No adjectives, one signature. Ryan grabbed for the paper. Carter placed 2 fingers on it, light, absolute. Her signature or none. Sophia's face pinched, went glossy. She turned toward the chairs, the murmurs, the faces she knew from childhood potlucks. The custodian with the quiet eyes, Mrs. Lane with a label maker and a backbone. She met Claire's gaze and flinched at what she found there. Certainty without hate. "Dad," she said. And it wasn't the call from Paris. It was the voice that used to ask for gas money. "I'm sorry." The words hit me without echo. They didn't roar. They landed. Heart pulse. Vindication didn't roar. It steadied me like a hand on my back. "Sign," Carter said, no malice, all procedure. She picked up the pen. Her hand trembled once, then found the line. The room held its breath. The pen scratched. She wrote her name, the right name, no flourish. She set the pen down like it weighed more than metal. A thin sound came from the back. It was Ryan, shifting to leave. "We don't have to. Aid. Or you may wait for court with this room as your mirror." Ryan stopped, discovered he did not own exits, and stayed very still. Mrs. Lane stepped forward, voice practical again. "We will remove under review from the calendar." She peeled the red sticky off the corkboard at the side of the room and folded it into her palm like trash that had been given its say. "Take." Carter slid a key packet across the table. "Locks?" Sophia swallowed. "We changed them." Her eyes flicked to my hand on the table edge. She looked at the dock key, at the small brass thing that had started as memory and become a kind of verdict. "I'll return them," she said. "Tonight." "Good," Carter said, still gentle as a gavel that only falls once. I turned my palm up. I didn't speak. Sophia reached for the dock key, lifted it, and placed it in my open hand. The metal was warm. The room let out a breath it didn't know it was holding. Ryan coughed into his fist and stared at the floor. We were behind. It wasn't remorse. It was an obituary for a plan. "Your debt is yours," I said, "not mine." Carter held up the signed stipulation without flourishing it. "Witnesses present," he said. "We'll file it open." Claire squeezed my shoulder once, firm. The clinic rep nodded to the deacon, who nodded back like men do when they've watched a fair thing happen and are trying not to make it sentimental. Sophia wiped her face with the heel of her hand. "Dad," she said again, smaller. "I'm sorry." "I hear you," I said. "Now we finish properly." Carter gathered the papers in a stack that made a clean sound. He checked the hall clock, 6:27 p.m. "We're done here for tonight," he told the room. "Thank you for your attention." I closed my fingers around the key and let my hand rest on the table. Family tension exchange, front of room. Sophia, "You set me up." Unleashed, "You set yourself up with my name." Sophia, "Don't make them hate me." Me, "I made them listen." No cheers, no booze. Just the sound of chairs closing and people deciding what kind of town they wanted to be tomorrow. I didn't bow. I didn't smile. I kept my voice the same size it had been at the start. "Thank you for coming." Resabir Sophia signed the copy for counsel. Her hand shook once, then steadied. She stepped back and let the paper be heavier than her will. "Dad, I'm sorry," she said, one more time where everyone could hear. It stayed said. Carter covered the signature with a blank sheet, the way you protect a seedling from wind. "We'll file at open," he repeated. "That's enough for tonight." I put the dock key in my pocket where it belonged and faced the aisle. The courthouse clerk's window smelled faintly of toner and floor polish. Carter slid the folder under the glass. The clerk stamped once, firm. Process 9:06 a.m. Unreasonable trapped the receipt with his pen. "That's your anchor now." I folded the slip into my wallet. Anchors don't drift. Outside, the air had that Monday bristle. Cars rushing, no one looking up. Carter shook my hand. "The queue's set. Bank will see it in hours." "I can manage," I said. At noon, the locksmith clicked the final cylinder into place. The front door gave a clean snap when it shut. He held out a neat ring. "All matched." I pressed cash into his palm. "Worth every lock." Sophia stood awkwardly by the hedge, keys dangling in her hand. "You'll want these back," she muttered. I extended mine, careful. "Not want, require." Her lip curled. "I'll make payments." "You'll make amends by keeping my name out of your debts." She looked away, dropped the ring into my hand. The sound of keys landing was harder than any gavel. Late afternoon, I dialed the bank. A crisp voice confirmed, "Hold lifted, funds stable, pending unwind noted." Quieter than expected. At home, I hung the dock key on its old hook, metal against wood, a small click. Peace didn't arrive loud. It clicked like a latch. "Closure isn't kindness," I murmured. "It's accuracy." I left the key to rest. "Will do." I didn't win by shouting. I waited, stacked receipts, and let a room listen. The lie unraveled, thread by patient thread, until my name stood up on its own 2 feet. Tomorrow, I'll walk the sand by the beach house and forgive what I can afford. Then I hang the key where it belongs and hear the small, clean click. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to share, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Type 1 if you resonate with this story.